had rags to riches stories such as Cinderella in our lives, but many believe that those are just fairy tales. However, sometimes those stories do come true, proving that anyone can become a star, even when they are at their lowest. Here are 10 famous people who were homeless. Be sure to stick around for our quiz as well. You never know what you'll find out about your favorite celebrities. It's nearly time to put on our glass slippers. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button before, be sure to give it a click now. That way, you'll always be on top of the latest content from the richest. Jewel. American singer and songwriter Jewel Kilcher, more commonly known as simply Jewel, has sold over 30 million albums worldwide. She is best known for her soulful ballads, but has also dabbled in other genres as well. Raised in Homer, Alaska, Jewel and her father would earn a living by singing in bars and taverns. As she grew up, she learned to yodel and play guitar. When she was 15 years old, she moved out of her father's house. She lived in an unheated cabin for a time, horseback riding or hitchhiking into work each day. By 1993, Jewel decided to move down south. She began writing her own songs and performing them in coffee houses. It wasn't easy, however. While living in Southern California, she turned down the advances of her employer and didn't get her paycheck. She was turned out of her apartment and was forced to live out of her car. To make ends meet, she drove around the country singing in cafes and working as a barista. Jewel was discovered by Inga Weinstein in August 1993 after another singer told her about a girl that sang in a local coffee shop. Curious, she drove out with a representative from Atlantic Records. After the show, they called the head of the company and asked him to pay for the girl's demo. Jewel's debut album, Pieces of You, was released in 1995. Steve Jobs. As co-founder and CEO of Apple Inc., the late Steve Jobs was a household name. The technology he created changed millions of lives. Before he passed in October 2011, his net worth was $10.2 billion. Though many didn't realize it, Jobs was adopted. His parents were a young, unwed Syrian couple. His mother came to San Francisco to give birth, and he was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs. They struggled at first, as Jobs was a difficult child. As he grew, he became fascinated by his adoptive father's mechanical work, which gave him an outlet. By the time he was 10 years old, he had developed a love of electronics. He had also befriended many of the engineers in their neighborhood, though he had difficulty with children his own age. Traditional schooling bored him, but he was hungry for knowledge at the same time. By 1972, Jobs was headed off to Reed College in Portland, Oregon. However, the college was very expensive and Jobs' parents had a difficult time affording it. They used their life savings to get him into the best school that they could. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for a dorm room. In a 2005 commencement speech for Stanford University, Jobs admitted that during his time at Reed College, he was homeless and slept on the floor of a friend's dorm room. He would return empty Coca-Cola bottles for money to buy food and got free weekly meals from the local Hare Krishna temple. James Franco. Despite growing up in California, James Franco was more of a math whiz type of kid than an actor. Encouraged by his mother, Franco began acting in high school plays. He had his share of problems growing up, such as small run-ins with the police for underage drinking, but never anything too serious. By his late teens, Franco cleaned up his act and began to pursue a career. He worked nights at McDonald's, practicing different accents on the customers while paying for acting lessons. His first big break came in 1999 when he was cast in a leading role on NBC's Freaks and Geeks. Though he loved his television role, he wanted to try bigger things. He began taking his roles more seriously, really trying to get into the headspace of his characters. Franco would completely immerse himself in his roles. When he was cast as the lead in a 2001 biographical film about James Dean, he began smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day and bleached his dark hair blonde. He continued this practice in other roles as well. In 2002, Franco was seen panhandling and living on the streets. Despite appearances, though, Franco was never really homeless. He was once again immersing himself in a different mindset to better understand a character. In this case, a homeless addict for his part in City by the Sea. Franco lived on the streets for several days, conversing with the people he met there. Chris Pratt. It's hard to imagine that someone like Chris Pratt could ever have been anything but a star. After all, isn't he Star-Lord? Well, before Pratt took on his role as Andy in Parks and Recreation, he was homeless. He grew up in Lake Stevens, Washington, though he was born in Virginia, Minnesota. From the time he was a young boy, Pratt wanted to be famous. When he was in high school, he remembered his wrestling coach asking him what he wanted to be when he grew up. This was his answer: famous. However, he had no idea how he would accomplish it. After dropping out of community college, he began working as a discount ticket salesman and daytime dancer. However, it wasn't enough. While living in Maui, Hawaii, Pratt became homeless. Thankfully, he still had his van, complete with a depiction of Shaggy and Scooby-Doo painted on the side. His job at the time only paid enough to cover his gas and food. When he was 19 years old, he was working at the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company restaurant in Maui when actress Rae Dawn Chong walked in. Pratt was waiting tables when Chong decided he'd be perfect for a role in her short horror film Cursed Part 3. From there, his luck turned around. Now he has a net worth of $30 million. Jennifer Lopez. We were certainly fooled by the rocks that she got. Despite referring to herself as Jenny from the Block in her iconic song, her net worth is $320 million. Jennifer Lopez, otherwise known as J-Lo, was born in the Bronx. As a child, her family had little money but still wanted the best for their 3 daughters. Lopez and her sisters were enrolled in singing and dancing lessons. Her parents said it was to keep them out of trouble and would also teach them good work ethic. While in her final year at Preston High School, Lopez learned about a film that was casting teenage girls for small parts. She auditioned for My Little Girl in 1986 and received a role. It was in that moment that Lopez realized acting was her dream. She wanted her parents to be happy, so she enrolled in Baruch College. After one semester, she dropped out and told her parents about her dream. They insisted that no Latinos do that and that it was a bad idea. The disagreement caused Lopez to leave the family home when she was 18 years old. She had nowhere to go and ended up homeless. She spent many nights sleeping on a cot in dance studios, but she didn't give up. Within a year, Lopez had become a fly girl dancer and danced her way into the spotlight. It's incredible, isn't it, how far they've come? Here's our quiz question for you. Do you know which Hollywood star has the highest net worth? Stay tuned to find out.